Hi everyone, good evening. A bit of technology challenges there, but we're back on track. Good evening to you. My name is Beks Ndlovu, and I'm the CEO and founder of African Bush Camps and long-standing professional guide. Thank you for tuning in to our first live Instagram video. We've started these talks, live talks, to bring you into the conversation of what is happening behind the scenes and to keep you excited about wildlife while you're spending your time at home during this time of lockdown. And it is also about bringing in the different characters and people that we work with that help us tell our story. And today I am inviting Craig House, who is the owner and founder of SoCoMunity. And he's been working with African Bush Camps since the beginning of the year. And we want to welcome him today to this show to add some insights into what it is that he does. He comes with quite a CV on him as being an influencer who has over 250,000 followers. I'd like to dive deep into that, into understanding what it means to be a travel influencer. So I don't know if he's there to join us.
Bex, how's it
There
going?
you go. There you
There
go.
we go. It's all
I was
working.
worried that maybe you're double. I was a bit worried that you were double booked and maybe you had another more important talk live somewhere other than this evening with us. So thank you very much for coming back online.
It's a pleasure.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I was worried that you declined my request.
Yeah, so I just introduced you, Craig, and thanks for coming and really dedicating this time to be with us. But a lot of us, I think, out there probably want to understand why you're so famous. I mean, you've got 250,000 people following you. I mean, I have a small fraction of that following me. Why don't you maybe start by telling us what is it that you actually do? Both personally and also, of course, through your business, SoCoMunity, that makes you so famous, and why is it that people are in their droves following you around on social media?
Bex, to be honest, I never really thought it would get to this place where it is now. Like, photography for me was something I wanted to do when I finished school, and you know how it goes. You get sort of shuffled into the direction. I end up studying actuarial science and maths, and photography for me really is a passion. Like, I love, even before it was a career or I made any money for it, like, I used to take pictures every single day for like 2-3 hours. And this went on for about 3-4 years. And yeah, I think I just love it. So I think over the years, I've just got better at it because of my love and passion for it. And I've been lucky enough to be involved in some really cool projects, bit of right place, right time, clever decisions. I opened up a couple other accounts as well, so there's a couple of other accounts I own. So yeah, it was a mixture between luck and a lot of hard work, but yeah, I'm very happy with where it is now. And then obviously started SoCoMunity, which has been really a dream, and obviously working with you guys, which is pretty much a dream for me.
That's fantastic. So talking about projects, Craig, we recently started working with you guys since the beginning of the year, and it's been an absolute pleasure and a dream working with you and your team. So thank you for all the work that you're doing for us, even during this time when we've been trying to get messages out, and quite often, quite frantically. And Craig, why don't you tell us so far with working with us, favorite project that you've worked on with African Bush Camp, and do you have a favorite camp of the ones that you visited recently?
You know, the thing is, all African bush camps are so different and so unique. So the first time I went on camp with you guys. I went to Kwai, and I went to Thorntree and Linyati, and it was the first time I'd gone out of South Africa to do safari, and I was just blown away by the camps and the rangers. So that was a really big experience for me, like getting transported from camp via helicopter and just the guides, and it blew my mind. But then I was sort of expecting the same sort of camp, and then we went to migration expeditions in Naipan, and that was just so special. So many game reserves or game lodges, you go to a lodge, and it's the structure. You drive up, and don't get me wrong, it's beautiful. There's this beautiful architecture structure. It blends into the environment, but with migration expeditions, you drive around the corner and there's just these tents just set out, like in the middle of nowhere. And they've literally just been set up, and you really feel like you're part of Africa. It's everything about it is just special. And for me, that how your water gets heated in like a donkey around the corner, and like how the chef is making food in a little tent using solar power and gas was just a real special moment for me. And it was probably the most memorable one. I was disconnected from, it was actually weird. That's as Corona sort of started really taking off around the world, and we had no access to cell phone or Wi-Fi, and like, I mean, we're completely oblivious to the world around us, but we're so connected to Africa. And the first day or two, you feel like strange, but like 2-3 days in, it feels so right, which was really special. So for me, that's probably the best. And I probably got the best non-cat wildlife pictures while I was there.
Oh, is that right? Wow. Talking about best wildcat picture, to your role sort of in the social media circles as an influencer. Congratulations, by the way, for being awarded the world's leading safari influencer. Why don't you tell us a little bit what those awards are all about and what that means to people that don't know about the accolade?
For me, it was a really nice accolade to get. I mean, it's always nice getting like acknowledged for your work that you do, and there are some incredible photographers and influencers out there. So just even to be nominated amongst some of my peers was just really, and some of my heroes and guys I look up to, was just special. It just also, for some reason, the safari section just felt more real to me, because I felt like the people that are involved in safari really put a lot more effort into. I feel like there's a lot more effort put into safari, and there's a lot more conservation. It means a lot more. So for me personally, it was actually one of the nicer sections to have won, because I felt like it meant something. And yeah, it was a nice surprise. I mean, I wasn't really expecting it, but yeah, it was really great to get it.
That's great. I mean, certainly in our world, being labeled as a leading safari influencer, I mean, that's quite a big deal. So congratulations and well done to that. Now, a lot of us obviously quite often will confuse photography. I mean, this is kind of your game. There's wildlife photography, and then there's safari photography. Do you want to maybe bring us a little bit into describing what is the difference between the two?
So I feel wildlife photography is obviously a subset of photography, and wildlife photography is very much around wildlife. Just, I can see you buffering there a little bit. I must still clear the side. I'm going to keep talking. I don't know if I'm still. Can you hear me? Hello? I don't know if you can see in the comments, if you can hear me, but I'm going to keep talking about. Is it back in action? Okay, so what I was saying, for me, safari photography, there's so much more to safari and being in the wild than just wildlife. Obviously, you get beautiful animals and you get beautiful moments, but there's so much more that goes into it. There's so much more in terms of communities. Each guide, each chef, each has got a story. A lot of the guides have grown up in Africa and they've lived in the wild. They've got stories of encountering wild animals from kids. And I mean, obviously you would know, Beks. I mean, you've been a guide yourself. So the guides have got such rich stories, and I mean, just there's so much to capture that's not just wildlife. And I feel if your objective is just to capture wildlife, you can get very disappointed if you don't get that shot. And for me, it's all those other moments. That's the moments under the stars where we've got the bonfire going, the fire's going, like capturing those moments. It's the tea at sunset, or the beer and biltong and nuts at sunset, and like a beautiful plane.
As you speak, Craig, I'm reminded that there is thousands, if not millions, of fantastic wildlife photographs out there. And it's very difficult to tell any of them apart in certain situations. But certainly, this situation that we're in right now because of COVID-19, you're sitting in your lounge, I'm sitting in my lounge. Normally you and I would be sitting under the stars right now around a campfire, probably, after dinner, sharing a nightcap. We would hear the
Yeah,
owls calling in the background. Maybe we'd be near a waterhole and there'd be a hive of activity, whether it's elephants
yeah,
splashing around or a lion calling in the background, the smells, the dust, all of that you really can't capture through a beautiful wildlife image. But as you say, my photography certainly over the last 15 years, I used to be very much into wildlife photography. And when I started developing the camps, I was that guy whose photography was reduced from shooting wildlife to shooting bedrooms and toilets and, people close up. But actually I did switch and would start appreciating the atmosphere and capturing the moments that you would have either with your own colleagues or with guests around a campfire within the camp. And that certainly is, for us, where we tell our stories. And that's where your role in SoCoMunity has really come in very well to help us be able to take our stories live and say, this is actually what it's about. It's about telling the story. It's about telling the experience. So, I mean, that's great. And I think maybe perhaps our audience would like to know, in terms of equipment, what sort of equipment is involved, and is there different equipment for Instagram as there is to Facebook? Is there different equipment from going for wildlife versus going for the experiential photography at the end of the day? Do you want to
yeah.
maybe speak a little bit into that for us?
Okay, so for me, I mean, any camera is better than no camera. I mean, I started off with a cell phone. I got my first 100,000 followers just shooting on a cell phone. So a cell phone's better than nothing, and cell phones are great, and you can capture really great moments with a cell phone. When it comes to getting those really great wildlife shots, obviously you need a camera and a decent lens that's long enough. A massive impact is also whether you're able to go off-road. If it's a private concession and you can go off-road, the guides can get a lot closer to the wildlife. So you don't need as much of a long lens. Where it's not a private concession, maybe it's a national park, and the rangers or guides can't go off-road, you might need a longer lens. For me, I shoot both video and pictures, so I've got quite a diverse set of equipment, and I normally carry like 3 or 4 cameras at any given time. Anything from from a GoPro to a camera that's just sort of close up with sound on it, and the one with the longer lens. With wildlife photography, there's a lot of patience and a lot of luck, and you've got to be in the right place at the right time. But when something does happen, you need to be able to take it quickly. So it does help if you've got multiple setups, like if you don't have to swap lenses or anticipate what's going to happen. For me, in terms of Instagram, Facebook, I feel like I shoot for, I never know. So I don't know if my images are going to be used in a magazine or on a billboard or on your website or on your Instagram. So for me, I shoot a very diverse range of images, but everything's of the same quality, if you know what I'm saying.
Sure. And so specifically, I mean, your camera that you use, I mean, we all probably have our go-to body or camera or lens. Can you maybe give us an idea of what your to-go-to body is? And what your to-go-to lens is? I mean, maybe speak a little bit into this recent technology. I mean, I put my photography to sort of a bed for about 15 years, and recently with my trip to Central Africa, I decided I actually wanted to get back into it, and I've gone the mirrorless route, and it's just amazing how light and how quiet these cameras are. And I've gone the Fuji route, and of course my 150 2.8 is my to-go-to for the most part. Do you have your to-go-to body?
Yeah. So this is my setup over here. Also use mirrorless. I do also use a Nikon as well, which isn't. So I've always loved Nikon at the same time, but for me, Sony is really good when it comes to both video and images. So the nice thing is, because I need a lot of different equipment, I can fit a lot more in because of the small body, and it's very light. So there's stages where I'll be doing a single man job where I'm both shooting video and images, and I will need maybe a gimbal and a drone and a camera. And when you start getting big bulky bodies, it's very hard. And I do a lot of hiking as well. So for me, this camera's just been unreal. So then the other lens I use is normally the 70-200 f2.8, and then What I just purchased now, I don't know if you saw the ostrich picture that that was used in the African Bush Camps post.
That's right.
I
Yeah.
used this 2x converter. So it basically really compresses the background. So this is an effective 400 mil, and I can also crop. Sorry, I'm getting very technical. I can also crop in on the sensor. So basically, this 400 mil becomes a 600 mil over here. So this is basically a
So
600
do
mil.
you use in poor light, like, I mean, that ostrich, when you've got poor light and you put on that 2x converter, with this digital technology, do you then lose the ability to have the 2.8 f-stop, or does that immediately go to 5.6, or can you still maintain your 2.8 on that?
No, so the converter makes it a 5.6. So there is a bit of a trade-off, but I must say the Sony is really good with ISO. So you can push the ISO a lot higher. And also when it's zoomed in a lot more, you still get that really nice depth of field, which is really nice. Yeah, so in that case, I was lucky. And also the sun was still out. Yeah, as soon as the light starts going, then the 2x converter does get a bit of a pain. You need to be a bit closer. But for me, it's just been a really nice addition. I mean, look how small it is. I mean, it's literally just this extra size on my camera, and it
Yeah,
and gives me all that extra
I
option.
bet very light, I bet you a lot lighter than the old technology as well.
Yeah, I mean, I can walk around with any given time. I mean, my camera bag normally costs more than my car. So I can fit all that stuff in my camera bag, and it makes a big difference that it's of the size.
That's excellent. So photography has evolved quite a lot. And in fact, I think what we're seeing with technology is the different phases of what is acceptable and what's not acceptable. There was a time when editing of photographs and videos was perhaps overly done to the extent that people said, well, we actually are losing what's real. You know, is this guy a good photographer or is he a good editor? Do you want to maybe tell us a little bit about your editing process and how that works and how much emphasis you put on that?
It's really strange. It's a very unique concept, and there is a certain. I try not to edit my pictures too much in terms of Photoshop, so I don't add things to pictures or I really take things out of pictures.
Right.
It's nothing. There's no heavy editing like that. I don't add more stuff or I don't take away stuff. My editing's basically always got to do with lighting or in the color grade. In terms of wildlife, I mean, I did a safari the other day with a whole bunch of wildlife photographers, and it's so strange. Like, there's such hectic rules when it comes to what photographers want to, how they want to edit, and even how they want to shoot. Because I think wildlife photography is one of those areas where people really like the awards. Whereas for me, up until now, I'd never really tried to get an award, or it's never been important to me. It's more trying to show images that people want to see. So I feel Instagram has given people more license to make art. It's almost like a hybrid between photography and art. And there's some incredible photographers that edit their pictures in a very moody way. Like, they bring out the eyes a lot more, the pictures are a lot more darker. And people like to follow a certain style. They're not following to see wildlife documented. They're following to see a beautiful, artistic representation of different animals. Added to that, if you look at most good or the world's best safari photographers or wildlife photographers, these guys go to camp for months on end. They're pretty much guides or rangers. They're able to walk around. They're able to wait for the shot. They know the animals. They know the conditions. The average person like me doesn't go on safari that often. And it's a lot of luck. So sometimes you need to be able to take a picture of a zebra and make it look good. Sometimes you need to take a picture of a bird and make it look good. It's not necessarily always getting the leopard kill or something like that. So with Instagram specifically, people like to follow a style. Like, it's nice going onto Instagram and seeing, okay, that's this person's picture without actually even opening it yet, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I suppose it's like if you have a favorite artist or a painter, you know, they have a unique style about them. And it's the same with photography and the work that you do, because that's what you are. You're an artist. So people follow your work and try to keep up with you because of the style of telling stories. Now, with that, obviously, you've managed to get all these followers and people following you. But can you maybe tell us a little bit about the consistent feed? Because that's what one thing it seems like you have is that consistency. How much of an advantage is that on Instagram?
Um, People will like a good picture, but I feel people only follow you if they. No one's going to follow someone that they haven't seen that their last couple of pictures are consistent. I mean, if you think about it, like, I mean, you're a busy man, like you're on Instagram now, like, and you go on Instagram for a certain reason to either see what your friends are doing or to see a certain style of image or a certain picture. If you don't know whether the person you're following is going to upload a picture of their cat or a bad sunset or a wildlife picture, you're not going to want to follow them. Like, you're not going to want to get so. It's very important to let people know more or less what's going to come next, if you know what I mean. So a
I got you.
style,
So what you just said right now is that if I take my furry child and put on my lap and introduce it to the world, I might either lose followers or gain followers. So what are you saying there?
depends how good your furry child is. Um, I think if people are used to it, so there are people there. I mean, there are Instagram accounts of cats, and they do really well. But people want to see those cats the whole time. But now, if someone goes and takes a picture of a random Barbie, like no one's going to want to see that. So it's all about consistency. It's like knowing people follow you for a reason. They know what they're going to get from you. So
Yeah.
it's important to try to stay in a certain style. And also, when someone opens your page and they see a beautiful, it's like almost like an art gallery. Like almost all the pictures together make a picture. So when they open it, like, wow, this feed is incredible. Then they
Yeah.
follow you. If they just look at it and they see one good picture, one terrible picture, one picture that looks like this, one that looks like this, they're like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to get.
Yeah.
So it's very, very important.
I mean, there must be for guys like you that obviously do this professionally, unlike amateurs like myself. There must be a very conscious, aware plan and strategy when you go out to shoot. So there's certain things that you keep in mind when you're shooting and also when you're editing for Instagram, because you're telling the story, or at least in your head, you've built up the stories that you want to tell, and that's what you actually go out and capture. Is that how it works?
Yeah, it's very important to do a bit of homework. I mean, I've learned that the hard way in the beginning when I first started. There's some very basic things you can do. So, for instance, if you've got a proper camera, always shoot in RAW. Always try to get the focus right. There's a lot of things you can fix. But if you don't shoot in RAW, it's hard to fix it. Always try to shoot the right exposure. There's very like small basic things you can do. It's like even get a shot list. I mean, I still as a professional, I still have a shot list. Most of it I always remember, but every now and again you get into a very stressful situation. And I remember once that I couldn't find my tripod base. I was doing a job ages ago, and the Northern Lights were going, and I couldn't, I just went completely blank. I was like, the Northern Lights are going, I can't find my base plate. And literally,
Yeah.
as soon as the Northern Lights stopped, I was like, oh, there it is. So it's the same thing with the shot list. Every now and again, you get into a panic or something's happening, and it's like, okay, did I get this? Did I tick this off? It's like, did I get the shot of the vehicle, of the camp? Did I get the shot of, and you've got a whole bunch of things that you look out for. And for me, like I still look at guys I respect before I go on safari. I was like, oh, what sort of pictures are these guys getting? How did they get it? And I almost imagine that shot, and I go and visualize how you would get it, what sort of settings, where the light would be. And when I actually get into the moment, I've already lived that shot in my head.
Yeah, it's I mean, all of this, there's always a danger, I suppose, if you think about it. I hear you describing about the, fiddling around and panicking for the northern lights, and some of these things happen so quickly that you actually might actually miss them. And there's always this argument to say, by the time you've done your fiddling around, aren't you actually missing out on the actual experience, which sometimes could be a once in a lifetime experience? I mean, I remember it must have been about 20 years ago, if that, seeing an eclipse for the first time. It was a lunar eclipse. And it was something like 45 seconds, and I was in Mana Pools in the Zambezi Valley. It was probably one of the most spectacular things I've ever experienced. But I must confess, for about half of that time, I was fiddling around with a 500 mirror lens with my Nikon, trying to focus and trying to capture the shot. And halfway through it, thankfully, I thought to myself, you know what? I actually just need to leave this and just soak it in and really experience it before I miss this once in a lifetime type experience. And there's a bit of a fine balance there, but obviously this is a professional thing for you. And when you go out to get on a project, you've got to get that shot. So there's a lot of pressure there.
Yeah, there's a huge amount. As you get better and more confidence in your work, you actually know when you've got the shot, which makes a huge difference. I've had that before. I remember when I went gorilla tracking as well. The first time I went, I was just like, I need to get the shot. I was just going crazy, and almost your energy gets so crazy, you lose composure and you don't get the shot. So for now,
Sure.
like for me, it's planning makes a huge difference, and it's anticipating the shot. So there's a lot of things you can do before that moment actually happens. So if you see that there's a lion in the bushes, you can set up your camera before he pops his head up. Like, you know he's over there, you get the exposure right. The moment hasn't happened yet, and you get it ready. And then there'll be that second where he pops his head up, and you'll nail the shot. And in your mind, you know you've nailed the shot, and then you can put your camera down. You're like, no, I'm going to enjoy it. And
Yeah.
I feel a lot of the time, my best shots I get is when I watch with my eyes first, because you can predict what's happening. And it's that whole process of watching, and enjoying the moment, and almost like having your eye on the lens. And it's like, okay, as it happens, it's like, I think it is hard, but you never want to be in the situation where it's just camera the whole time.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, look, I mean, you certainly have spent enough time that that thing of anticipating allows you to be ready and not still miss out on part of the action and part of the actual experience itself. And one of the things that people comment quite a lot about in the audience here is people are just blown away with how consistent your feed is, and that's says quite a lot about you go out there to get material, you get it, you deliver. Very similar to the projects that we've done, where we've given a very specific brief and you've come back with this amazing footage and stuff that we've been able to utilize and tell our story. So well done there. And if there's any one particular tip that you can give people out there in terms of when they set off for this journey to try and capture stuff so that they can bring it back to Instagram and get a following, would there be one particular thing, or is it a combination of things? I mean, what would that be?
Bex, for me, it's a mindset. Like, if you want to go get an amazing wildlife picture, you're not going to pick up your camera on safari and get a great picture if you don't ever touch your camera before. So, like, if I had to tell you all the weird jobs I had to do, from shooting like children's rugby to soccer to fashion shows to random bartenders, I've had to do so many jobs that are not glamorous, but it's all been part of the journey of learning how to take pictures. And all those little things that you learn, it could be a kid running towards you with a rugby ball that helps you take a picture of a lion running towards you. There are so many little things. And the tip I'd give anyone is, if you want to do it, like, photography is not that hard if you love it. Like, the settings on a camera are basic. I mean, it's not rocket science to work out a camera. If you love it, you'll practice and you'll keep going at it and you'll shoot the whole time. Whether you think you can be professional or not, do it because you love it. And that would be the advice I'd give anyone, is don't do it to be professional, do it because you love it. And if you love it enough and you get good enough, you can make a career out of it.
Well, you and I, have some of the world's best jobs, in that we actually, for our job and what we do for a living, is actually part of our lifestyle, and it's really who we are. And we're very fortunate to have massive amount of backyards where we can take our toys and have lots of fun. And that, I think, is what you're alluding, is that if this is your passion, if you really enjoy this, it's not a difficult task at hand. And yeah, continue doing what you're doing. And yeah,
Thanks, Bex. I appreciate it.
we really enjoy working with you and your team. And unfortunately, we need to wrap up. I hope that you would be available to answer any questions. I know that there's some people that might want to be a lot more technical, whether it's be camera settings or whatever it might be. And we would do well to have you answer some of those questions. But out there in the audience, thank you very much for tuning in this evening. And certainly, if there are any topics or any issues or concerns or stories you'd love to hear from us in the future with any of these live shows, please do let us know by communicating with us through any one of our social feeds, or send us an email, info@africanbushcamps.com. And we look forward to engaging with you. Thank you.